guys, it's Ryan G. Wright with DoHardMoney.com coming to you today with a Just Ask Ryan question of the day. And today's question is, what is a single purpose entity and how does it apply to real estate and real estate investing? Fantastic question. If you've got a question of the day you'd like to have me answer, type it in the comments below and just put, Just Ask Ryan, answer this question for me, and type it in the comments below. I'd love to answer that for you. So a special purpose entity is also known as a single purpose entity, and the idea with this is that it's one transaction use. So you're setting up an entity to use for one transaction. Now you may say, oh man, I've got to spend legal fees or costs and I've got to register it and all this stuff, and I'm saying yes, but let me tell you why. The benefits of this is that you're using this entity for this single transaction and not for other transactions. So this is an asset protection strategy. So the idea is, let's say that you bought a property, and let's say that property had some problems like mold that you were unaware of, and you rehab the property, you sold the property, and then later on someone dies in that property because the mold got so bad, but you had no idea about it. Now that's an extreme example, and certainly help that nobody passes away for any reason. But if that happened, you're going to end up in a massive lawsuit where somebody's going to sue you for everything you've ever owned and say you knew about it or you covered it up. And even if that was not the case, they could claim that is the case, and you're going to spend a ton of time dealing with that. And money. So what happens is we set up what's called a single purpose entity. So we start a company, it's an LLC. That company's sole purpose is to hold this property for this transaction, and once that has been completed, the entity is dissolved, and therefore there's no assets, it's not in existence. So years forward, if an accident or something occurred and there was a lawsuit that would be pending, they would go and say, who owns this company? And they'd say, the company's not here, it doesn't exist, it hasn't existed for a year or 2 years, and the attorney is going to say, well, it doesn't make sense to go after a company that doesn't exist. They were the legal entity of the property. It probably doesn't make sense for us to pursue this, and then you won't deal with that legal battle. Now, the idea isn't that something happens, and I gave a very extreme example of somebody dying, but let's give some examples of somebody slipping and falling on the property, or let's give an example of a contractor who's on your job who gets injured and for some reason let his insurance lapse. General contractor, his insurance lapse, one of his employees is on the property and he cuts his finger off. They're going to sue you. And you're going to end up in court on that. And so then the same thing, if you own other properties, the only property that's in jeopardy is the one that you've got in that single purpose entity. The same thing actually you want to have happen when it goes to rental properties. But within rental properties, some people will put each property in its own in its own LLC, in its own corporation. You could use a single purpose entity for the same thing, where you're saying, hey, I'm only going to put this one property in there. Some people put multiple properties in one LLC when it comes to rental properties, where they say, hey, if I have 10 properties, maybe I'll do 5 LLCs, and with those LLCs, I'll have 2 properties in each one. Reason being that if something happened, the only assets that are in jeopardy are what's in that one LLC, not the combination of the LLCs, as long as you do things to keep your book straight and you're not commingling funds and those types of things. So, but that's fairly easy to do. So the bigger issue is, how do we avoid getting ourselves into a problem here? And the answer is that we set up a single purpose entity. So each time we're doing a flip transaction, we have a single purpose entity, the property goes into there, and once we've sold the property, it's dissolved. So if somebody tries to sue us for slip and fall, a contractor tries to do a type of lien because of something that's happened on the property, or if we're dealing with something that happens to a new owner, all of that is limited to just what we find in the single purpose LLC. Nothing more, so it limits liability. So basically, think of it this way. Think of it as insurance. I'm basically buying insurance in the form of putting a single purpose entity together, and that insurance is going to protect me from having something that could happen in the future, which could happen years in the future and would come back to haunt me. And especially if you're just getting started, that's the last thing you want to see happen, is having something come back on you years later after you've established and done several deals and maybe bought some other rental properties. Think of this: if you had a property to fix and flip on, and then you bought some rental properties, and then somebody came back because that fix and flip had a problem, and they're able to take the rental properties that's taken 5 years for you to go. And here's one thing you got to realize: even if you weren't in the wrong, you still lose, because you have to defend yourself, you have to spend money. Even if you didn't know about it, it doesn't matter. You still have to defend yourself, you still have to pay the legal costs. Whereas if it's a single purpose entity and it's been dissolved, that's all gone away and you don't have to worry about it after that point, because the entity has been dissolved. So that's one of the great reasons. There's some other reasons with a single purpose entity, which makes it easier to set up, easier to get lending, and a few things with a special purpose entity. If you want some more details on that, give us a holler. We'd be more than happy to talk about it as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please hit that thumbs up button. It means a lot to me to see that thumbs up button and know that you've been enjoying these videos. If you've got a question a day you'd like me to answer, type it in the comments below. Also, if you'd like some help with fix and flip, with rehab, if you'd like some help with a project manager, if you'd like some help with finding properties or software, understanding what's a good deal, what's not, how to run comps, you name it, anything real estate investing related, please check us out over at dohardmoney.com. Check out dohardmoney.com. We'd be happy to help you. Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.